Hi, Monarch students. This is Ms. Kurganin, and I am leading you through a short PowerPoint about the Earth's four spheres and its major landforms. So the first thing that you are going to have in your note packet, your note catcher, is what are the differences in these different spheres. We would like you to know these four, and they've got some, that's kind of hard vocabulary words, so let's break it down. So the atmosphere. The atmosphere is the section of our planet that's all the gases. So you're going to write in your worksheet, they're the gases. And what you might find interesting is it's actually more nitrogen than oxygen, that most of our atmosphere is nitrogen, and it's a nice buffer from the sun and from the UV rays. Like it protects us from our planet getting too hot. And atmosphere also includes the weather that spirals around in there, the wind, the rain, the hurricanes, the tornadoes. Okay, next sphere. The next sphere is called lithosphere. And this is anything that has to do with rocks. It is the crust of our planet that's made by volcanoes and molten magma. So it's the rocks, it's the soil, it's the mountains, it's the actual ground that you're standing on. It's the stuff that's made from tectonic plates. And so if it's moving, that means that you are in an earthquake. If it's tall and spiky, it's a mountain. If it's collapsed, it's a canyon. It's exploding, it's a volcano. That's your lithosphere. Next sphere is called the hydrosphere, and this should stick in your head because like a hydro flask, hydro means water. So we are mostly water. 70% of the Earth is water. So it includes even the water that's frozen in Antarctica or the Arctic Circle. It's all of the waves, the tidal waves, the fog, the rain, the rivers, the snow. It's the wet stuff. Last sphere in your note packet. Biosphere. This is anything that's alive. If it is a live plant, we call that the flora. If it is a live animal, we call that the fauna. Fauna also includes insects and microscopic life. So mushrooms even. It's just all the, well, no, mushrooms I guess would be more with the flora. Sorry. So biosphere includes you and me and all the animals and your pets, and it is, bio means like life. So it's the stuff that's alive. All right, now let's talk about landforms, because in your UN physical map, you are going to be labeling and drawing in where you have significant landforms, but you might not know what all that vocabulary is. So look through your list because you're going to be defining 10 of them. And I would define the 10 that you don't know. Like, you know what a river is. Don't do that one. But you are looking through those vocabulary words and shooting for 10. And here we go. A delta. I'm not going to have you write all of this down, but I need you to know that delta is formed by the deposits of sediment. So it kind of spews out of the river like a fan. So this is the river, blah, 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 and then it comes out as little sandy fingers, like a broom. So that's called a delta. Here you can see it from space. Pretty cool, right? That's the Nile River Delta. That's the Ganges. All right, next is tributary. I like to think of tributary as a little twig. It's where a stream or river flows into a big river. So little river coming into a big river, like a twig. So you would write that down, tributary. And around here we have Boulder Creek that runs into the South Platte, and we've got the Missouri running into the Mississippi. So that's called a tributary. Archipelago. These are actually the tippy tops of mountains. So if we drained the Mediterranean here in Greece, we would actually see big, tall mountains. Hawaii is actually an archipelago. So the tippy tops of mountains that are stuck in an ocean, that is formed with tectonic plates shifting. Next is an isthmus. Hard for me to say without a lisp, an isthmus. So you've got this narrow strip of land that connects two like larger chunks of land. So Panama is an isthmus because you've got North America and South America connected by this chunk of land, and then we chose to build a canal right through there. Okay, next. Peninsula. When we are in the class, I usually have students make these landforms out of Play-Doh, but sadly we can't do that because we're online learning. So peninsula is just a chunk of land sticking out. So it is a piece of land like Florida, surrounded by water. Strait. Strait sounds like it's nice and straight, but it's actually the opening between two land masses that the water can get through. So here's an ocean, and then that water coming through, boop, boop. That's called a strait. So it's a channel between two large bodies of water. Here's some cool straits from space. Strait of Gibraltar. All right, a basin. A basin's like a big bowl in the earth. So it's either created by like a meteor, or it's just a lake that's dried up, and so now it sits like a bowl. Think basin for bowl. It's a sunken landform. Mesa. If you've been to Utah, you've seen a lot of mesas. They're super cool. They are made from wind and rain and snow eroding the cliffs into steep walls, and it looks like a box. So flat area on top. It's called a mesa. If you have a big, long chunk of mesas, that's really a plateau. Plateaus are where it's like a big, flat rectangle, and they're usually made with lava deposits. Over time, lava spewing out, and then it makes a big rectangle. Out in Grand Junction, you can see that mesa way before you even get there, which it takes like forever to get to Grand Junction. Canyon. A canyon is made by a river that has just carved the heck out of it through time. So the most famous canyon is a Grand Canyon, and that Colorado River just took its eons, took millennia to carve all the way down here, carrying little bits and pieces of that landmass as it went. A bay. A bay is a protected, enclosed body of water. And so it's no wonder that a lot of our original cities began at bays, like San Francisco Bay and Boston Harbor and New York Bay, because all of our colonists stuck their ships in there so that they wouldn't sink from storms. So it's a nice little protective cove for people. A confluence. A confluence is bigger than a tributary. It's where two big honkin' rivers meet, and they kind of make a Y. So here's a cool picture of the Colorado River and the Green River making a giant Y. Estuary. An estuary is a piece of trapped water, and it got trapped because a sandbar trapped it in. So it becomes this salty lake away from the ocean, with a little bit of fresh water, a little bit of salty water, and it's this trapped lake. And there's a lot of wildlife and animals and birds that kind of hang out in these estuaries. They're often protected zones. But the water is really salty, not good to drink, even though it has fresh water in it. So that's called brackish water. And if you drink it, like, you would know it because you would not feel so good and you'd have to go to the bathroom. All right, deserts. How do you know if you're in a desert? Well, you're going to receive less than 10 inches of rain for the year. So it's an area that receives very little water. Check this out. There's Mr. DiCarlo on his honeymoon at an actual oasis. You thought that it was just a made-up thing? No way. Here in Peru, that is an actual spring. So an oasis is pretty cool because you've got fresh water and life in the middle of kind of like a dead zone. So super cool that they really exist. All right, next is glaciers. Glaciers are frozen rivers that are slowly melting into the ocean, but not so slow anymore. Our glaciers are actually running like rivers. And it's expected that like most of the glaciers from Greenland are going to be gone in the next 20 years. So it's scary to think of how what is our climate going to be like without glaciers, which help moderate our temperature in the world and our on our oceans. So, but a glacier is, and it's happened before in history. That's true. That's even like how our mountains are formed. We got like super cool glacier activity even here in Colorado. An escarpment. So the flat irons that you see in our county are sticking up because it's flat, 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 and then suddenly a landform that's called an escarpment, where there's a long, steep rock face out in the middle of nowhere. So flat, 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 and then bam, something is jettisoned up. So our flat irons are an escarpment. But on the plains, that's pretty much where we are. Here in Louisville, we're out on the plains, and they are flat lands that have small changes in elevation. And I was teaching this lesson for years until students pointed out that these photos are incorrect, and I never noticed, but would you check that out? Here are the plains of Africa. Oh, no, wait. Here are the plains of Africa, because I have never seen rhinoceri in the Great Plains of Nebraska. So, whoops, switched it. All right, a mountain range. You should know that. Those are landforms that are made with volcanic activity. And if you have more than one mountain, that's called a range. Lots of mountains in this PowerPoint because Mr. DeCarlo is a climber and he loves being on mountains. And he loves mountain facts. 24% of the Earth are mountains, and they account for most of our water. So that's why I guess I get nervous when the glaciers are melting, because half of humanity depends on mountains for the water. What are we going to do without that water? Yikes. All right, valleys are where you have a low place between a mountain. I like to think of valley as like a V. A fjord. Does that sound like a Norwegian term? It is, because this is where there used to be a glacier, but then it melted and it carved out these awesome cliffs. So a fjord was made with glacial activity. And there are a lot of fjords in Norway, which is where we get that word. Tundra. A tundra is where you are up in the polar zone and the plant growth is limited because they only have a little bit of time in the summer to grow. So everything stays pretty low to the ground because of the crazy winds. And at the tundra, you're probably not going to get anything above your waist. And these zones are shrinking because it's getting warmer and warmer and melting. And so we're losing a lot of tundra on our planet each year. A cape. Cape is kind of like peninsula, but it's a little more pointy. And here you see the Cape Cod of Massachusetts. It's land that's sticking out almost like a arm with a bicep. Here's the Cape of Good Hope. So it's more of a pointy piece sticking out in the water. All right, I think that's it. So you need to, for this PowerPoint, you are going to label and explain 10 of these. And then you're going to upload that worksheet just to show that you watched this PowerPoint. And thanks again for listening. I know online learning's hard, but you're doing a great job. Thanks a lot.